And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the lounge tonight. We are so glad that you're here watching with us as we present another edition of this now becoming popular segment in the life of our church, the lounge. And tonight I have with me someone that you do all know, Carl. Welcome tonight. We are so glad that you're with us and able to join us tonight.
And always, John, it's a pleasure. Actually, I'm here now. It's a pleasure to be here, as always.
That's really good. And you know, Carl, today we obviously had our community care programs, and they have been absolutely fantastic. So people have really come and, taken a hold of this ministry, which is part of our church, so that we could help people out there. And to see the many happy faces leaving here knowing that tonight they got something to put on their table is really good.
Yeah, it's a good thing to see. There's a lot more action out on the streets. I've noticed even just people walking past the motel. There's a lot more action happening out in the streets from even 4 or 5 weeks ago. It's really busy. It's a good sign.
That's really good, and there seems to be a real energy happening, real vibrancy happening within this community right now. And I notice in Morwell and right across Gippsland, really, people are really getting used to the idea of enjoying the freedoms that we once had pre-COVID. Have you noticed that with yourself as well?
Well, I've noticed that over the last probably 4 weekends where, you go back 12 months ago, we were never getting busy on weekends. Our work at the motel seemed to finish on Friday and we basically had the weekends to ourselves. But the last 4 weekends, we've been getting absolutely hammered. And that's the fact that people are now not taking travelling on weekends for granted. Like they're working and they're getting out on weekends. I think that's what's happening.
That's right. And Carl, we know that you and your good wife, Eileen, you manage and own the Coal Valley Motel in Morwell. What's going on? What's new at the Coal Valley today?
Oh, the new at the Coal Valley today. Like I said, it's been very, very busy. And today, it's been one of them days, and I've turned to the Lord a lot today, and my daughter was the one that come in and remind me of that. She seen me at one stage there, and she told me to turn on some worship music and tune out, and I think that's what I did.
I believe she was right in encouraging you to do that, because when we are facing difficult times, and that does happen.
Oh, constantly.
Because the rain falls on everybody.
Yes.
Basically, but the key is, how do we manage it when things get really out of control in our life?
Yeah, and that's the thing. You've just got to walk away from it sometimes, and I normally would have done is just flicked on YouTube to praise and worship, and I'd forgotten about that because I was so wrapped in that moment and the phone calls and stuff like that. She walked out and she goes, "That's enough, enough's enough," sort of thing. Step away.
And that's really good because, whenever people are facing troubles, and let's face it, we all do, and we all get discouraged and we all get disappointed and we all go through things that we never planned for. Like I'm sure when you woke up this morning, you didn't plan to have the day that you had. It just came upon you and you had to deal with it.
Yeah, I didn't plan to open up a room and have busted water pipes in a room. So no, I didn't plan for that. Yeah.
Yes, and there's a lot of stories in the Bible where things happened and that people never planned for. We look at the disciples when they went on the boat, when Jesus said to them, "Go to the other side." They didn't plan for the storm.
No.
But when the storm came, they had to face it. And they went to Christ and they said, "Hey, we need some help here."
Yeah. You're the one that wants us on the other side, brother.
That's exactly right. You take us there. So, Carl, we know a little bit about you, and one of the reasons I got you here tonight is for you to tell us something more about the Carl Moses that we are getting to know. Tell us about you. Where did you come from? What are you doing now? And then take us about 5 years back to now.
Okay, so it was here 2 years ago that we decided, actually 3 years ago, that we decided we need to start looking into our future and where we were going to be when we come to that retirement age, and we realised that 50 we needed more. And so what is it that we do? And we looked at, definitely we're going to do things together. We were tired of working apart. Eileen in the health industry with split shifts and whatever else, and me being a truck driver, being away. So this was a natural progression that we looked at, something, and it was never going to be a pub or a hotel. It was never going to be a takeaway shop or a supermarket, and it was a motel.
Yeah.
And we had looked at numerous motels all around. This one at Morwell kept coming back every time we got, knocked back or whatever. We actually had our little motel in Morwell. We actually bought it and it fell through. We still ended up here for whatever reason.
Incredible. Now you mentioned something just there and you just slipped through it, but I'll take you back to it. You were away truck driving.
Correct, yes.
Tell us about that life. How did you get into it? Tell us some stories about truck driving.
It's truck driving's hard on families.
Yeah.
And it takes a good woman to put up with the life of a truck driver. And I mean that sincerely. And it's hard on the kids. The kids miss a lot, but they reap also what you bring in as well. And I found in my journey being a truck driver, it made me a better dad because I respected my kids when I was home. So every minute, even though I was away a week, I was that father when I got home. And that made me, it didn't make me a good husband, right, but it made me a good father.
When you were
because
home.
I was focused on the kids and so on and so forth. So it's lonely.
That's right, and as you said, and I mean, there's this old saying that you take the trucks out of Australia and the country stops.
Correct.
And that's basically what it is. Because this country's on the move 24/7 by trucks, taking loads all over the place. And, you would have seen some things happen to truck drivers and with truck drivers.
Oh, yes. Like, it's, you see a lot of things that you wish you'd never seen.
True.
A lot of stupidity on the roads and you see a lot of accidents. But you also see a lot of good things as well.
Right.
You see how beautiful this country is. You don't really realise how big this country is until they tell you that you've got to be there the next day.
That's right.
Most of the people before me driving to Perth, I'd always had this vision of driving a road train to Perth. And I didn't realise that...
Now, a road train. What is a road train?
A road train is your normal semi-trailer, which everyone's good. You all know what that is. Sure. This could be anything up to 5 trailers long. Yep. And they're only allowed on certain roads and whatnot, but they're heavy, they're big vehicles. You're grossing like 160 tonne, 180 tonne.
That's a lot of vehicles.
It's a lot of vehicles, a lot of money. You could have truck trailers and load, you could have $4 or $5 million worth of that combination sitting there that you're responsible for. And that's what I said, you see a lot of beautiful things. You meet a lot of beautiful people. And it's diverse. Like I've been to missions and had to drop stuff off garages and portable homes and stuff like that. And you get to meet a lot of beautiful people.
That's right. And not only that, as you mentioned before, Carl, you get to see a lot of this country.
Yes, beautiful country.
Amazing country. I remember travelling as far as Alice Springs.
Beautiful.
And just along that road, coming from Coober Pedy all the way up, and then turning back from Alice into Ayers Rock and just seeing all the other scenes around there. Amazing country.
It's just, and also we live in this country where we do things so differently.
Yeah.
Like I had an American I used to drive with a lot, and he couldn't believe that when, he was coming doing Perth with us, and he couldn't believe that they would land a plane on the Nullarbor to bring out the sick from the farm. So you're sitting there in the middle of the Nullarbor, and next to this plane is coming straight at you, and you're like, and I can remember ducking down in the seat of the truck, so I thought this plane was going to hit me. And he just said you would never see that in America.
No.
Only in Australia.
Uniquely Australian. We have a way of getting things done in this country, which is amazing, and the ingenuity.
We take Australia for granted, a lot of us.
Yeah, that's right.
We do. Yeah. We do. We don't realise how lucky we are here.
So Carl, as a truck driver, obviously a very lonely occupation that you do have, and I know that we don't want to refer to them as truck drivers, but as professional drivers. Because that's what they're doing now.
Correct.
And they've gone through a whole, generation of drivers to make this occupation really what it is. It's a professional service to this country, to their customers. And they are really the ones that look out for others on the road.
Correct.
So you've done it. Being on the road by yourself and having such a lot of long hours, what happens to your thought processes?
It's a very dangerous thing. You can go mad just with your thoughts if you don't know how to cope with your thoughts. I used to find myself ringing friends all the time just to break up that boredom. I did things, especially when I was driving to Perth, where I'd make a video because you could watch a video, and I'm serious. I used to watch Disney movies. I had this bloke. He used to follow me, and he would come up the side of the truck. and I would hold the CV down so he could get the sound, and he would watch Disney Pixar movies with me across the level.
I suppose a lot of that sort of behaviour doesn't quite happen these days because they've certainly tightened down. It's like we are tightening up with phones and cars
Correct,
and drivers
yes.
and stuff like that. But in those days, you just have to do what you do.
You had to do what you did,
And,
and it was a different time. It was a different time.
And roadhouses were a good thing, but I remember driving to Alice Springs, and we stopped at a roadhouse. Now, I used to think that drivers would be loaded with the truck driving menu, hamburgers with a lot, steak and eggs, but these guys were walking out with salads and with healthy, nutritional meals. So the service and the driver, the professional driver, has come a long way. But they're looking after themselves these days.
Back in the day, so you go back to days of my uncle and my grandfather, my dad and my uncle, right? And back then they were just truck drivers.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, they did it hard. They didn't have the comforts that we had, and it was tin floors and no insulation, and 2 sticks to change gears and all that sort of stuff. But it was smokes, tablets to keep you awake, and that was it. So it was steak, protein, gravy, cheese. We turned around and they took all that out of the system. We had to turn it into a profession. We weren't truckies. We weren't truck drivers. We were truck drivers. We weren't truckies anymore. No. And we had to make it a profession. If you didn't, you died. Yeah. So you had to eat healthy. You had to eat right. Yeah. Just for stamina-wise. Yeah. Because you didn't have that tablet to keep you going. If you wanted to get home safe to your family, you had to eat nutritional food.
That's right. It's incredible, isn't it? So, Carl, you've done all this stuff. You've been driving trucks, and what was your favourite truck? What sort of truck did you drive?
I've driven a lot of different trucks.
Yeah,
I can remember as a kid I used to watch a TV show called BJ and the Bear, and it was a big red and white truck and he had a monkey. Look it up on YouTube, it's great. And I always wanted to drive one of them trucks. Yeah. And I remember all the time I got to drive one.
What sort of truck was it?
It was a Kenworth Aerodyne.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to drive the BJ truck, the BJ and the Bear truck. And I remember my first trip in the BJ and the Bear truck, I finally got it. I was working for TNT at the time. I did a trip to Brisbane and I hated it. And it just destroyed my dreams, my childhood dreams. I hated it. But my favourite truck would be, as a kid, I can remember being, 13-year-old, and my uncle being spun out on the drugs to stay awake. Yeah. And with a point that he didn't work anymore, he'd say to me, "Boy, you know where we're going?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I know where we're going." And he'd throw me up behind the wheel. So here I am, 13, with not 2 trailers, 1 trailer behind me, driving out the backcountry, 2-stick Mac. I loved it.
You loved it.
The old Mac, twin-stick Macs were my favourite.
Twin sticks being the exhaust systems coming up and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, look, big heaps of soot coming out of it, pollution, they sounded great.
You certainly don't see that these days,
you don't see it, no.
So apart from trucks, now you also tickled the boxing ring for a while.
Yes.
You and your boys have followed in your steps like boxing. So tell us about your little flurry into the boxing arena.
It was, I was a very, very big boy when I was a kid. I'm a very
big boy.
And I had to lose weight.
Yeah.
And I always loved sport. So I took up boxing, weightlifting. I was playing football already, and I was doing hockey as well. And I trimmed off. And so as a kid, I found myself as an amateur boxer. And my very, very first fight was not a good fight. I got beat by a guy from Gilgandra, a kid from Gilgandra. I think it was about a minute 26 in the first round.
And you trained 6 months for that.
Don't tell anyone about that, by the way. Hometown crowd, it was a bit of a rocky scene. I had invited aunties and uncles, and I bounced around the ring like Rocky Balboa. And 1 minute 26, they're carrying me out of the ring. They call it punch drunk, John, I think is the term. I was still awake. That was my saving grace. I said to them, I was still awake. Why didn't you let me fight? They said, "You have no idea where you'll fight, and you'll fight yourself." I was like,
oh my goodness.
But anyway, I got better after that. And then later on in my life, my boys come through, and naturally they all wanted to do it as well. So I became a coach.
That's good. Have you fought any notable fighters who actually went on, or have your sons fought any notable fighters?
Oh, yeah.
This is about you, but have you?
No. I'm trying to think of his name. He's a Koori fighter. I can't remember. He did well in the amateur circuit, and I think he represented Australia at Olympics once.
Oh wow, okay.
But my boys have done better than that, like especially Warren. He was four-time state boxing champion.
Warren.
He went on to fight on Mundine's contender show and won that.
Wow.
And the guy that he actually beat to win that spot actually became world champion.
Is that right?
Yeah, Danny Gill. And my son, he didn't end up going to the show because he had a girlfriend that was having a baby at the time and his mum wouldn't let him.
It's amazing, isn't it? Our circumstances can come our way and we have to make decisions at that time.
Correct, yeah.
It happens a lot. So you've been trucking, you've been boxing, you've been motelling and a whole bunch of other things, and you drive a GT. It's full of raw with a lot of go. It's a dream car, I believe it is, and you also have your dream wife.
Oh, look, this is one of, other than all my kids, Eileen is she's my greatest escape. You know, if I'm having a bad day, I think about her a lot.
Good.
And even if I'm having a good day, I think about her a lot, and she already knows this actually. I think I put in a card once to her many years ago, and she's my greatest escape. And my family life now as it is probably one of my greatest achievements.
That's good. Carl, I look at you and I see a powerful man, a powerful person, and I'm talking natural power. You're one person I wouldn't want to go in the boxing ring with. Probably run all day and try and tire you out that way. But I see a lot of power in you. I see you did a lot of, may I use the term, manly pursuits in your vocation. You talk much about your children, how you install some of that fight and that fighting spirit into them. But besides the boxing and besides the loneliness of the truck and trying to get through life, you also came across a lot of darkness in your life.
Totally.
That no matter how powerful you were and still are, you couldn't overcome a lot of that darkness.
No, it was an incredible journey. When you wake up one day and you realise that you hate who you are, and you're looking in the mirror going, "Where have I gone?" You know, you were raised a certain way with your mum and your dad, and don't get me wrong, they weren't perfect. My mum and my dad never had the perfect marriage. It wasn't until my sister came into the world that they actually realised that they had to keep it together.
Wow.
And like I said, my dad is my best friend. My mum was just my everything until Eileen came into my life. And when you stand back, when you're 30-year-old, you can't blame your mum and your dad. You look, where have I gone wrong? What have I done? Where did I lose myself? And it's that journey that you take to try and bring yourself back.
So you're talking about at the point in your life where you start to take ownership
of
what's going on in your life, and that's the first step back. When things haven't gone right in your life, we tend to want to blame everyone else. And it's like an old country and western song. The dog died, the truck burned out, the house burned down, and then finally we lost my pair of jeans. So we blame all of that in the country and western song. As in the washing bust up. It's all their fault. But the road back to recovery is ownership.
It's one of them things, where you look long and hard, and you look at the things that you've done. And it was only your choices that put you there.
True.
You can't blame truck driving. You can't blame the kids because they're running around and taking charge. And you just are constantly searching for that thing. And it's not until you go, "This is all my fault," that it all of a sudden it's like this big thing washes over you, and you go, "Okay, now I understand." What it is the whole way through it is that you think that you know what's best in your life, when in actual fact,
you don't.
I've learned about this after, is that all that constant battle and darkness is not. No, it's you. It's God sitting there going, one day you're going to wake up and you're going to start listening. Because I remember walking out of that bathroom going, I need something other than this to find myself. And that's when I started looking at religions. I started reading books.
You mentioned something before, Carl, when, you look at the mistakes that you've made in life and you own them so you can have a starting point.
Yeah, if you don't, you never have a starting
point.
point.
And sometimes, everything that happens in life that didn't turn out to be well may not necessarily be your mistake, but it's just come upon you.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
almost as, that old saying, life has dealt me a bad hand. Or, I didn't plan for this. I didn't want this, but here I am now, I've got to deal with this. So in other words, we still own what we have, the good, the bad, the indifferent. We want to make change, we own it. We use drugs, we can't blame people for life. They've given us the drugs, we own our addictions, we own our mistakes,
Yeah, exactly.
we own our situations, and that is taking responsibility, and that becomes the chance and the time when we can make a difference.
Correct.
You see, Jesus himself said, take ownership. Choose you this day whom you will serve. Take ownership. And he knows that once we take ownership, then life falls into place.
Well, it really felt like to me earlier on, when I started to search for that missing thing. At that time,
Yeah.
I didn't know it was Christianity,
Sure.
right? When I started, it was really feeling like that I just thought I knew better than what.
Yeah.
Like, so if something was thrown in front of me, no, I knew better than that. I didn't take
Yeah.
that advice. I
Yeah.
didn't, no, I don't need that,
Sure.
right? And so it wasn't until I found Christianity
Mm-hmm.
that I realised that all these things that were thrown in front of me where I thought I knew better, it was like the Garden of Eden situation where, I thought I was better than God. You know what I mean? When technically, like, he's going, well, this is not the path that I want you to travel on, right? But if you want to go down this path, I'm going to let you just, work it out for yourself. But I'm still going to be there for you.
Yeah.
But one day you're going to need me.
That's right.
And that's exactly what happened.
And it's like, when you're driving your truck and you know that there's a certain route or road that you need to take to get to a certain destination. And if you deviate from that,
You're asking for trouble.
you're in all sorts of trouble. You just never end up where you want to be.
Try and
So
turn that road train around on a dirt road.
it just doesn't happen. So, Carl, you were obviously on a road of destruction in your life, and following the road. I mean, you mentioned Christianity, but Christianity doesn't really do it.
No.
It is your relationship with Christ that gets you on the way, because Jesus said, I am the way, the truth and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me. Tell us that moment in your life when things turn around, where your awareness of God, or as you said, Christianity, where your awareness became a relationship.
At that moment where I knew that was the path I was on,
Tell us about that.
I had just been given some bad news from the doctors and about my health. Right? I was like 167 kilos.
Good Lord.
I was driving an unregistered car. They took a license off me. My kids were feral. Washing machines were breaking. Everything was
going
bad.
wrong, yeah.
I couldn't, my wife at the time was like out there. She loved her world that she was in. And I remember pulling my car up, my unregistered car. And I just said to myself, if there is a God, make me happy.
All right, okay.
And that's what I pulled up. That was it. And I remember throwing my hands up in the air, just like that, in my car. And I stood up and I pushed myself down. Now, I don't know whether I knocked myself out or whether
True.
I just fell asleep. Right?
Mhm.
Now, I had a car, an old Fairlane. The radio didn't work in it. It didn't even have an aerial.
Wow.
Right? And when I woke up, Joyce Meyer was giving a sermon through the radio.
Wow.
And I'm like, no way. I've had this car for 8 months and
This thing didn't
this
work.
never worked. It's got no aerial. Why are you even coming through? And I tried to turn it off. It wouldn't turn off. I drove back to my house, which was 14 k's out of town, listening to Joyce Meyer. It didn't really sink in. I turned the car off, thinking that when I go back and turn the car, it's just on line playing tricks. The next time I get in the car with Robbie Zachariah. And I thought, okay, there's something in this. This is the path this is the sign.
This is a sign that you're looking for.
That I didn't know I was looking for, but that was it. And I thought, okay, well, maybe this Jesus thing, there's something in it. Now remember, I've come from a background where my dad, I've spoken about this before, his religious beliefs went as far as, we're not eating red meat and Easter, right? Funerals, christenings and weddings, that was it. My mum, because of her background with Torres Strait Islander, they had a belief. It was completely different to like mainstream beliefs because of the islander, the Torres Strait Islander. So we always had a belief, right, through my mum. I'd never heard of this thing, Christianity, like it was until that day where I actually felt it in the car. And that was when I knew that that it was there. There was no turning back from it.
Incredible. So basically what happened, and what I can hear from what you're saying, Carl, is you were leading this life that was slowly crumbling until it crumbled.
That was it. There was nothing else.
And not even the radio was working in the car. It wasn't a GT, so it wasn't really working.
No.
And then you found yourself putting God at the test, saying, hey, if you're real, you've got to change the situation.
That's exactly.
And at that point you had awareness that only God could do this for me.
Exactly.
And then what I'm finding is that you're saying then things changed.
From that moment.
Things changed.
From that moment. I couldn't escape from it.
No.
I can remember just before I lost my license for the medical reasons, driving my truck, and you talk to yourself. If you're not listening to music, you're talking to yourself. You think about things at home. You're talking about, you think about, how am I going to stop, Warren from doing this? How am I, you see, doing this? And all of a sudden, this voice, like it was sitting next to me, spoke to me, and I sort of went, yeah, what? And I looked around, and there's no one there. Now that happened twice, and I pulled the truck up and got out looking for some sort of microphone, thinking it was some tape recorder or something, someone playing tricks on me, and there was nothing there.
No.
And I rang a friend of mine who we used to nickname the preacher, and I said to him, hey Craig, like, what's going on, man? Like, and he goes, you need to go and speak to Tim White. Now, who at that time, Tim White was just a friend of the family.
Yeah.
Didn't even know he was a pastor of his own church. Never knew, right? And I went to him and I told him the story, and he said, you need to come to my church. And I went, church, And it was like, I sort of went, wrong, I might as well get church.
Yeah.
But I turned up on that Sunday and it was never the same.
Never the same. And then obviously the change in your life was progressive.
Yeah.
Wasn't like now you listen, but it was a progressive change.
It was very progressive. It was like, I look back on it now and it was like, we're not going to bombard you. Like, you're going to get scared, you're going to get frightened. I think we've talked about this before, where I said the one thing that frightens people about Christianity is not knowing.
True.
So I was glad that my walk, like I would go to this church and see all these crazy people doing things and really didn't understand it because I was new. But I was compelled to come back.
That's right. Something drew you
exactly.
to come back.
Kept coming back. I was doing both services a day where I could.
Yep.
Just incredible.
And Carl mentioned listening to a person speaking on the radio by the name of Joyce Meyer. Guys, if you want to tap that name into your search there, that woman preaches some really good messages of hope and peace in a troubled
She
world.
was what I needed at that time.
And that message just came to you at the right time. Carl, what an incredible story. And I'm sure when we listen to the journey since that day, there's been a lot of accounts where you could say you didn't know what to do, but like your daughter once said, time for you to sing some songs,
That's it.
time for you to worship, because it carried you through.
Correct.
And that's what we're hearing today. What a fantastic story, and it's really good to hear that from you, Carl, that God's been blessing you and your wife and your children
every day.
And that is a promise in the Word where He says, "I will bless you and your children and your children's children and their children," and so on and so forth. That He's the God of the generations.
Every day.
And that's it. And we may think that, what about my child? What about this? What about that? Do I have to come to God to get change? Well, the simple answer is yes.
Yes.
Because He is the only way that can bring change.
Yes.
And that's what the Bible says, and that's what we believe. I want to finish off this section with this verse of Scripture. It's found in the book of Ephesians. I love this book. This is an amazing book, and I could spend weeks, and we might just end up doing a study over a series of weeks in the book of Ephesians, because it speaks about us being in Christ and what that really means to us. Incredible. But just to wrap this up, Ephesians 3, chapter 3, verses 20 to 21. Now to Him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us. To him be the glory in the church by Jesus Christ to all generations.
Correct. It's everyone.
Generations, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Look at this bit. According to the power that works in us.
That's right. And that's what happened to me that day.
That's
The
right.
power came in me
Yeah.
to make me work to where I am
That's
today.
right.
Like to get me through it. I don't know where I could have ended up.
Yeah.
I remember there was one stage there, my boys were walking along
Yeah.
a railway line,
Yeah.
trying to find me because they thought I was going to end it all.
That's right. That's amazing. I mean, you know, Paul in the book of Ephesians, he says something further where he says, and he prays that the fullness of God
Oh, yeah.
may dwell richly or live richly in you. Think about that. God himself, who arrested this man's attention, changed the life, and that was just the start.
He let me suffer first, though,
Yeah.
by the way. And that's
Until,
why. Yeah.
until you were ready to
Until
call
I
on
was
him.
ready. Exactly.
You know, so the power that it's speaking about here is an explosive, the Greek word being dunamis power, explosive power, meaning a power that brings change. You know, if you want to get rid of a structure these days, I remember just the other day, they had to get rid of those chimneys at the mine here,
Yeah.
and they had to dynamite it
Yeah.
to bring it down. And you know, friends, our lives are so riddled with things that destroy us,
Yeah, bring you down.
that it takes a power
Yep.
far greater than ourselves or anything else, the power of God himself.
But when you've got to give it up like
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I don't know, well, I'm not saying everyone goes out to their cars and throw their hands up. But he
Stop
knows.
first before you...
Exactly, stop your car first.
Yeah.
But it's you surrendering that you've had enough, that you
That's
can't
right.
cope with this
Can't
anymore.
cope with
The whole through my journey, he protected me. Like
Yeah.
I never got hurt.
it. No.
You know, I didn't suffer in any way except for my own stupidity and my choices that I made.
Mhm.
But I realise now that he was always there
Yeah,
until that moment when I called him and said,
that's right.
if there's a God, just
That's
help
right.
me out, make me
That's
happy.
right. Friends, you know, you've heard a story of life today. You heard the Bible in action. You heard God doing a work that is current in a person's life. And just to finish off again, that he is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that you would even think of in your life. The moment we say, well, this is as good as it gets, we've
There's
limited
more.
ourselves.
There's more.
Because there's more.
That's right.
There is more.
Surrender yourself at that
Yeah.
moment. If you think there's no more, surrender it.
Yeah,
Because that's that thing that he's looking for.
that's right.
That last step.
Well, the other word to surrender is a word that we use as the word heal. You give
Yes.
over, you know, you give way to
Correct.
God in your life. You heal, you step aside and you heal. It's like when you're merging from onto a freeway, you would heal to the car that's merging in.
Yeah.
You know, you give way, and if you don't give way, they're going to crash.
Correct.
So you are healed, and then you're on your journey. Mate, it's been good.
It's been a good one tonight.
It's
I've
been
enjoyed
good,
it.
yeah, and thank you and your daughter for coming. It's been great, and we hope to hear some more of your story. And friends, occasionally we will have these spots where we just call Getting to Know You on the Lounge tonight. And tonight we got to know something about Carl on the Lounge.
Yep.
And if you want to know more, if you're a professional driver out there, and you're hearing the story, and you go, yep, I know what that bloke's speaking about. I get it. I know what he's talking about. And if you say, I need what he's got, find us on our Facebook page, Heart Focus Community Church. All our contact details are on there. We'd love to speak with you and pray with you. And in fact, even put you in contact with this guy who knows what Jesus was talking about and knows what you may be going through.
Even if
as
it's a job with long
Yeah.
hours where you're separated from your family,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to talk. Because it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're truck driving
Yeah.
or you're working in the mines, 12-hour shifts. It doesn't matter. It's the same
Yeah.
thing.
That's it. So it's out there for you. Help us on its way. Help us there. You got to reach